My daughter uninvited me from her own wedding after I paid for everything. Not asked me to sit in the back, or asked me not to give a speech. She said, "Mom, I don't want you there." I remember the exact moment. I was standing in my kitchen, still holding the checkbook I just used to send the final payment for her venue. $27,000, wired out of my savings account that morning. The phone buzzed, her name popped up, and I thought she was calling to say thank you. Instead I heard, "I think it's better if you don't come to the wedding." At 64 years old, that was the day my own child fired me from being her mother. My name is Linda. I'm a retired nurse, a widow, and the mother of two. I grew up in a tiny town in Ohio where you didn't have much, but you had your people. My mom used to say, "You don't let go of family, no matter what." I married young, like a lot of us did. My husband, Mark, died when our kids were still in high school. Tara, my daughter, was 15. My son, Jake, was 17 and trying to play man of the house but grieving like a little boy. I worked nights, I sold Mark's truck, I cashed out what tiny life insurance we had. We kept the house. They both finished school. I didn't buy anything bigger than a new pair of scrubs for years. Tara was the artistic one. Dance, theater, glitter everywhere. I remember staying up until 2 in the morning hot gluing rhinestones on her prom dress because the original didn't have enough sparkle, and we couldn't afford a new one. When she got a scholarship to a state university, I cried myself to sleep from relief. Jake went into the army. Tara went into marketing. I stayed in the same little house with Mark's picture on the nightstand and a coffee can labeled "Retirement and Emergencies" in the hall closet. Somewhere along the way, I watched my baby girl grow into a woman who could give a presentation to a boardroom without blinking, and who started to see me less as home and more as that thing you grew out of. Still, when she called at 32 and said, "Mom, I'm engaged," I screamed loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "Tell me everything," I said. "Who is he? When did he ask? Did he get down on one knee?" His name was Ryan. They worked at the same company. "He's organized, Mom," she said. "He has spreadsheets for his vacations." I should have heard the warning in that. Organized is great. Controlling is something else. I also said the sentence that would come back to bite me. "If you want, I'll pay for the wedding," I told her. "It's what your father would have wanted. We never got to do this for him." She paused for half a second. "Are you sure?" she asked. "Because venues are insane, Mom. Like, actually insane." "I'm sure," I said. "I've been putting money away. I want to. Let me do this one big thing for you." You know that feeling when you hit send on something before you've double-checked it? That tiny flutter of maybe? That's how it felt handing over that promise. The planning started like any other wedding story. Pinterest boards. Venue tours. Tara calling almost every day with, "Mom, look at this bouquet," and "I found a dress." I went to the first few appointments. I sat on the little sofa at the bridal boutique and cried when she came out in that white lace gown. I was the one who swiped my card for the deposit at the country club she wanted. Then I met his mother. Her name is Karen. Perfect hair, perfect teeth, perfect little laugh that sounded like a sitcom character. The first time we had coffee, she said, "Isn't it wonderful our children found each other?" and squeezed my hand just a little too hard. I tried to like her. Really. But everything I did, she had a slightly better, more tasteful version. My potato salad? Oh, I have a lighter recipe. My idea of putting a memory table for Mark at the wedding? Might be too depressing for the guests, don't you think? Little things at first. Paper cuts. Over time, I noticed Tara repeating Karen's phrases. "That might be a little tacky, Mom. That's not really our aesthetic. Remember, this isn't your day." Every time she said that last one, it was like a tiny nail hammered in. I backed off. I told myself, "You promised to pay, not to control." I tried to be the cool mother of the bride who just wrote checks and said, "Whatever you want, honey." But it's hard. I'm not made of stone. When the guest list went from 120 to 180 because Ryan has a lot of colleagues he has to invite. But my sister, who essentially helped raise Tara, got bumped to the maybe column. I spoke up. Sweetheart, if there are too many people, I'd rather cut some co-workers than Aunt Diane, I said. Tara sighed. Mom, you don't understand networking, she said. Aunt Diane will love us no matter what. Ryan's boss won't. There are politics. I bit my tongue until it hurt. Then came the seating chart. Originally, I was at the head table, between Tara and an empty chair where Mark would have been. Then one day, the printout changed. My name floated to a round table near the back. What's this? I asked, pointing. Oh, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. We decided to do a sweetheart table with just me and Ryan. And then put our parents with other family so it's more balanced. Balanced, I repeated. You'll be with Aunt Diane and Uncle Pete, she added quickly. It'll be fun. You'll be able to talk. Up front is stressful. I heard what she wasn't saying. Up front is where the photos are. Where people look. Where Karen would be. Karen's name was still right at the front, in big, confident letters, next to groom's father. I went home from that meeting and sat in my car in the driveway for 20 minutes, just staring at the steering wheel. At 64, your kids don't have to slam doors in your face. They find quieter ways. You get demoted from centerpiece to background. And because I was that kid once, I told myself, maybe it's just anxiety. Weddings are stressful. Don't make this about you. I wish I could tell you that was the worst of it. It wasn't. The Rayol break came about 3 weeks before the wedding. The venue had just called to confirm the final payment. I went down to the bank in person, because that's the kind of woman I am, and sent the last wire, $27,000 from my account to a place my daughter had chosen. I drove home, humming along to the radio, thinking, okay, now I just get to enjoy this. My phone buzzed as I was taking off my shoes. Can we talk? Tara texted. I smiled. I poured myself an iced tea. I called. Hey baby, I said. You owe me a picture of those centerpieces. Silence. Then, Mom, I've been talking to my therapist and to Ryan and I think it's better if you don't come to the wedding. At first, I honestly thought I heard wrong. I'm sorry, what? I asked. She took a breath, the kind you take before ripping off a bandage. I don't want you there, she said. You make me anxious. You make everything about you. You keep bringing up Dad, and it's supposed to be a happy day. I don't want to be worrying if you're going to cry or give some speech that makes everyone uncomfortable. I'm your mother, I said slowly. I held you when they put you in my arms. I have a right. See, she cut in. The guilt. I gave you life thing. Mom, Karen says it's emotional blackmail. I can't do it anymore. I need to set boundaries. I sat down hard on the kitchen chair. For a moment, all I heard was the clock ticking and my own heart pounding. Did I yell at you? I asked quietly. Did I throw a tantrum? Have I been rude to your guests? I need you to help me understand, Tara. It's not about one thing, she said. It's the energy. Every conversation we have, I leave feeling guilty. You say you're happy for me, but then you sigh about Mark, or you make little comments about Karen. I want peace. It's my wedding. I'm allowed to choose who's there. And Ryan? I asked. Is this what he wants too? He supports me setting boundaries, she said. If you really love me, you'll respect this. If you really love me. I felt something cold slide into place. Tara, I said, voice shaking. I paid for this wedding. I know, she said, and for the first time there was a crack in her confidence. And I appreciate that. But money doesn't buy you a seat at my wedding. Money doesn't give you the right to make me feel bad. I thought about the check I'd written for the dress, the deposits for the DJ, the florist, the venue. I thought about prom dresses and unpaid overtime and Mark's truck sitting on a stranger's driveway instead of ours. You reach a point where listing sacrifices feels pathetic, even to yourself. I hear you, I said finally. I don't agree. But I hear you. If you don't want me there, I won't force my way in. She exhaled, relieved. Thank you, she said. I knew you'd understand eventually. I need to go, I have a call. We can talk later. We hung up. I stared at my reflection in the dark screen of the microwave. Sagging skin. Grey hair in need of a cut. Eyes that suddenly belonged to an old woman I didn't quite recognize. The first waves were anger. Humiliation. If I'd been 10 years younger, maybe I would have driven straight to her apartment and screamed at her door. But there's something about being in your 60s. You've seen enough battles to know which ones you can't win by force. So instead I cried. I cried over the sink like my mother did when a bill came she couldn't pay. Then I made a cup of tea. Then I went to the drawer where I keep my receipts. It's funny how paperwork can feel like armor. I pulled out the binder I'd made with every wedding invoice, every confirmation email printed and hole punched, because that's who I am. And I saw, in neat little lines, all the contracts. Name on file, Margaret Collins. Payer, Margaret Collins. They didn't say, Mom. They didn't say, emotionally manipulative parent. They didn't say, outdated generational trauma. They said me. The next morning, I called Henry. Can I do anything? I asked. Legally. You could sue, he said. Technically, you could demand repayment of funds sent for a wedding you are now uninvited to. But you'd be suing your own child, in public. I don't think that's what you want. No, I said. I don't. I don't want a court. I want dignity. He was quiet for a moment. Well, he said finally, you can't take back what you've paid. But you don't have to keep paying. The venue was done. The dress was done. But things like the caterer's remaining balance, the DJ's final installment, the tip envelopes, those weren't. One by one, I called the vendors. Hi, this is Margaret Collins, mother of the bride for Tara and Ryan's wedding, I said. I'm calling to let you know I'm no longer the point of contact. Please direct all further invoices and questions to my daughter. A couple of them hesitated. Is everything okay? The florist asked. My daughter has decided to set some boundaries, I said. And I've decided to set mine. It's still their wedding. It's just no longer my bill. I didn't cancel anything. I didn't sabotage. I didn't threaten to burn the dress. I just stepped out of the role I'd been playing. The ATM in a cardigan. Word got back to Tara faster than a text chain. She showed up at my house 2 days later, red-faced. How could you? She demanded as soon as I opened the door. The caterer emailed me. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that is? You just dumped everything on me. I held the door open and let her come in. I thought I wasn't coming, I said. It didn't feel right to keep paying for a party I'm explicitly not invited to. That's manipulation, she snapped. You're punishing me. No, I said, feeling strangely calm. I'm matching you. You drew a circle and stepped out of our relationship for that day. I'm drawing one around my bank account. That's not punishment. That's parity. You raised me to believe family takes care of each other, she said, tears in her eyes. What happened to that? I also raised you to say please and thank you, I replied, and not to throw people away when they're inconvenient. She flinched. We stood there in my little living room, both breathing hard, both stubborn as mules. I hope you have a beautiful wedding, I said softly. Honestly. I hope it's everything you want. And I hope, when you look around that room, you don't notice the one person who isn't there more than the 180 who are. She stared at me, jaw clenched. Then she left. I didn't go to the wedding. On the day she walked down an aisle I'd never see, I sat on my back porch and drank coffee from the chipped mug Mark used to love. Jake called me from overseas and told me stupid jokes until we both laughed. My neighbor dropped off a plate of cookies, just because. It hurt. Of course it hurt. There are some holes in your life that never stop feeling like holes. A month later, Tara sent me a photo. No caption. Just her in her dress, standing with Ryan and his parents on either side, everyone smiling. Later, after too much wine and not enough sleep, she texted again. I'm mad at you, she wrote. And I still think you make things about you. But when I looked around that day and you weren't there, it didn't feel the way I thought it would. I stared at the screen for a long time. I'm your mother, I typed back. That doesn't disappear because you draw a boundary. But I'm also a person. That doesn't disappear because you wear a white dress. We're not magically healed. We talk. Less than before. More carefully. Sometimes she says things like, my therapist says. And I have to bite my tongue not to roll my eyes. Sometimes, I think about that little girl in rhinestones on prom night and wonder where I lost her. But here's what I know at 64. You can love your children with everything you have and still refuse to let them erase you. You can give them the best years of your life without handing them the right to decide you don't belong in the room. I didn't see my daughter walk down the aisle. But I remember the first time I saw her take a step. I remember her tiny fingers holding mine, her first day of kindergarten, the quiver in her chin when she said, "Don't go too far, Mommy." She may outgrow wanting me at her big days. She will never outgrow coming from me. And no one, not a groom, not a therapist, not another mother, can uninvite me from that.